This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube. Joining me today for this UFO podcast about the UFO news of the last couple of weeks, none other than the UFO Tarheel Casey, all the way from North Carolina. So, what's been going on with you? You've been experimenting with some AI UFO stuff, which looks pretty cool, and I'm be posting it on here in the coming days.
Yeah, just trying to figure out, some of these little tidbits that we get in the community. How do we share those across? Some of it is stories that we've told on this channel, historical fact stories, and trying to get them across in a more visually pleasing way, right? So the one I like to go back to a lot is the one of Japan's response to Doolittle, because I don't think people realize how much that ties into what we talk about here. Whether you believe in aliens or not, it doesn't really matter. Do you understand that the government does have to keep aerial phenomena sometimes in check and quiet? So if we don't have it posted to the Hannibal Network yet, I think Hannibal's going to put one of those up soon. If not, you can also check it out on my UFO Tar Heel on X or on TikTok. I put it there, but it kind of just reiterates, tells that story. And I have people all the time when I use that story as reference to government cover up, they still had no clue to it. They're like, "Are you kidding me?" There was balloon bombs released over the U.S. mainland from Japan back in the 40s, and they still to today have no clue about that. But one of these days, I hope to go in full depth of where I got that from, who tipped me off to that. Um, I don't want to dox him here on Hannibal TV, but um, it was definitely a verifiable source. And when I went to go checking it, sure enough, the U.S. Air Force had released that on their website as something that got declassified. So yeah, little things like that. We'll keep putting them up on shorts. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing that they declassified that. Why do you think made them change their mind about that?
They had to come up with an answer for Roswell. So see, that's how it ties in. The answer, if people aren't keeping up with Roswell, yeah, there's something to keep up with. Um, what happened was in the 90s, they restated the story, right? So within 24 hours of Roswell, it was a disc, right? They went ahead and just released it and said it was a flying saucer. Within 24 hours, they said no, weather balloon. And then that lived on through the 90s, and I think Bill Clinton pushed them to push the intelligence community to revisit it. They revisited it, and they came out and they said it was actually reconnaissance balloons. I have that verified. I have that verified from someone who I can go on LinkedIn and look at their professional profile. Plus, I had to work with them in a setting to where, let's just put it this way, I know they are who they say they are, um, but even on their LinkedIn profile, they have it on there that they were in Air Force declassification. They have their years of service, and they said they actually worked on helping get those documents declassified. They were saying that the Japan balloon bombs that were released in the 40s, that made it, some of them made it over to the mainland. There was some picnicking uh, activities going on in Oregon where a group of picnickers tried to drag one out of the woods, and it killed six of them doing so. So it's historical fact. This is on the Air Force's website. This isn't hearsay or some kind of hogwash. But his claim was our response to those Japan balloon bombs was it kind of sparked our curiosity to go, what can we do with balloons? Can we do something? Can we fly reconnaissance balloons over the Soviet Union? Can we fly them over Germany? Can we fly them over our adversarial nation? So that was his response. I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just telling you the fact of the story is the Japan balloon bombs. The I don't know if I believe it or not is Roswell was reconnaissance balloons, and we kept it secret because we didn't want people knowing that reconnaissance balloons were coming down, and they had instrumentation on them and everything else. So, but that was the question. I asked the question of this person, well, can you tell me about Roswell since you were in Air Force declassification? And this was a story I got. There was we were trying to, after that happened in 44, 44 is when Japan started releasing the balloon bombs. 45 is when the Oregon picnicking group got killed. Um, and then we apparently there in the later 40s started testing our own balloons. That's the response I got. So I think that's why they declassified it. They said, hey, go ahead and push that out there and just, again, if you're believing that Roswell was aliens, let's go ahead and push that out there. And that about the balloon bombs, yeah, it's a bad story. It doesn't look good on America, right? Because we tried to cover that up. The balloon bombs, we controlled the media. We would not let the media report on it. It's all in the Air Force archives. So I think it came out, Hannibal, because of that. They were trying to give some answers for Roswell.
What do you think about this comment here? He thinks the whole Area 51 and Roswell are both psyop distractions.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if I think that way, like psyop wise. Because I mean, just think about that. Roswell could have. Is it feasible that Roswell was an operation where they were testing reconnaissance balloons? Is that feasible? Well, of course. I mean, that's feasible, right? That uh, we saw what Japan did to us in the 40 in 44, and we said, hey, I think Roswell was what? Somebody I have to check me here. I think it's like 47 or something like that. It's very possible that
Yeah, it was 47 for sure.
yeah, it's very possible we wanted to do our own balloons and said, hey, Japan's got a good idea up there, and apparently they still do it to today because we had the Chinese spy balloons just within the last uh, 5 6 years. So, I don't know if that it could have just been an operation where one got away from them and it crashed and the whole Roswell situation got sparked, and maybe in that crash they went back and forth on how do we deal with this matter in an information standpoint, right? Like, do we tell the public that we were testing a reconnaissance balloon to go fly over our adversaries, or do we make up some funny story? So if you want to think of it like psyop that way, okay, that could be possible. But Area 51, I actually don't give much credence to Area 51 unless there's something that comes out with this S4 stuff where I know there's supposed to be another Bob Lazar documentary at some point released this year where he goes and takes you inside S4. I don't know if that'll divulge more information though, or we'll get any net new information. But Area 51 just always came off to me like that's just one of those places where, you know, um, I've heard all different kinds of accounts of why people work out there. They work on next stage technology, and then some people are just going out there and they're sent to go get samples from the field. Hey, right across. If you look at Area 51 on Google Earth, look due west, and right across the Papoose mountain range, there's a whole desert littered with craters where we were doing testing. And I've heard people go out there and they have to do testing in those craters to see what the fallout still is, and they do readings and things like that. So Area 51 could actually kind of be a boring place. It is my feeling. I would be more interested in the areas around Area 51.
Yeah, and I heard Elon Musk, and I don't know if he was making a joke or not, but he was saying that he actually rents Area 59 space that is around that same area. And he said he's been to Area 51. And if there was anything there at one point, he didn't see anything when he was there. And he says there's numerous areas in that space. So once Bob Lazar blew the lid off Area 51, it's obvious they're not going to be dumb enough to keep anything there.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. They'll move stuff. I mean, as soon as they get somebody sniffing around, there's been multiple reports of things being moved. But I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know why they would document it and put it in the film. But for those, have you, Hannibal, have you seen Zero Dark 30, the movie?
I remember hearing about it, but if I have seen it, I don't remember anything about it other than the name.
Zero Dark 30 is just the movie about how they captured Bin Laden, and they kind of go through the phases of you know how we were doing intelligence gathering and stuff like that. But part of Zero Dark 30, if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure they showed them out at Area 51 because the helicopters that they were going to fly into Abbottabad, Pakistan, to get Osama bin Laden were worked on at Area 51, and it was new age helos that we've never used before, and that was their first operation, was dropping in to get um, Osama bin Laden from Abbottabad, Pakistan. So, that was just something that's what I think about with Area 51. There's probably that kind of shit out there. It's just next age technology. We don't want to go fly it out here in North Carolina where we have 4 bases right off the coast. We don't want to go fly it out, at Eglin down at Destin where everybody's sitting out on the beach and can watch it. We don't want to go. Where's the sneakiest place where you can go fly it where there's a no-fly zone? Why not just go fly it out in Nevada? So I think there's probably a lot of stuff that they fly around out there that they just don't want a lot of eyes on. And even then, you can get eyes on it. There's people, if you want to, after this video, go check out YouTube. There's people camping out from Area 51 all the time, shooting film that direction. So anything comes up over that base, if it was something freaky or weird or alien, I mean, people be snapping photos of it all the time.
Yeah, and they've been camping out there for years, and I think at
Oh
one
yeah.
point you could see a lot more than you can now. But
Mm-hmm.
I was just watching something on News Nation before I came on here with you about
Mm-hmm.
these mysterious orange orbs that have been seen a lot by police officers and stuff in the Connecticut, New York area.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like these orange glowing orbs are becoming a more common thing as well. Have you heard
Yeah.
much about that?
Yeah. So, I've heard about it as it ties into that and how it ties into the stuff about Sedona that you were even messaging me about. I thought that was pretty interesting with what's going on with Sedona.
Yeah, that was pretty. I've been through so much the past few days. I forgot about that Sedona thing. That's very interesting.
Yeah. But the good thing is that more information is coming out about what the government capabilities are for things such as creating plasma and how they're able to bring together these lasers and point of reference lasers that create these plasma fields and things like that. And I'm starting to see more and more information about that. I think that's probably some of the new age technology we'll start hearing about. We talked about it on the last show, one of the lasers that they talked about demonstrating, which was a laser that could send audio messages. So you could point this laser, the military could use it, point it 1,000 yards out, and wherever the laser lands, it's transmitting an audio message. And that's, again, verifiable things that the military is doing. So, you know, now I'm starting to hear about lasers that can create these plasma fields, and the military has it. And it'll look round, it'll look circular, and again, it just makes you wonder. It's like, um, and this is backed up this week. Burleson, Representative Burleson, talked about this in one of his uh, panel interviews he was doing this week. There's several clips pulled from that. We'll get into the Lou Elizondo stuff about that, but one of the clips that came out of that was him saying that he has it from several intelligible sources that this is it's not alien. This is the stuff that we're seeing is either adversarial or it's ours, and it's new age stuff. So makes you wonder. Um,
Pretty cool shirt you got there, by the way.
yeah, yeah. I forgot when I was coming out. I was like, oh yeah, I got the alien
He,
shirt on.
he comes in peace, I guess.
Yeah.
So, as you were actually predicting a couple weeks ago, speaking of Burleson, we were hearing talk that basically last week there was supposed to be some more hearings that, to my knowledge, they didn't happen. Is that right? You predicted that they wouldn't.
That they wouldn't have the hearing.
Yes, because I
Right.
didn't see anything about any hearings that actually took place, even though there
Yeah.
was talk that they were going to happen.
Yeah. No, they didn't have the hearing, and but they did. They were supposed to have a skiff, and the skiff they were supposed to have. Um, they were going to have Lou Elizondo. They were going to have Chris Mellon, and they were also going to have David Grush. Uh, all three of them were no shows. So uh, apparently Grush and Mellon were sick, and that caused Luna to come out and throw all three of them under the bus. And she said that they all had skiff flu, is what she said. Um, Lou, the excuse has changed three times. So first, Luna said he was sick. Lou came out and clarified that and said, what did he say? Oh, he said, I had a festival that I had to attend. Um, and that was kind of left there, and everybody kind of beat him up about that because they were like, is a festival more important than a skiff? And then it came out Burleson. Uh, Burleson said something in an interview where he said Lou didn't show up to the skiff because he was taking some time off because he felt bad about sharing the fake photo during the UAPDF presentation to Congress or to the closed door Congress meeting. So, so we've got three excuses. Burleson says that Lou felt bad about sharing that picture and wanted to take some time off, which is backed up from him stepping down from UAPDF. And we've also heard that Lou was at a festival. That's what Lou said. He couldn't get out of going to this festival. And then we've also heard he was sick. So who knows? But at the end of the day, these skiffs are, it's something we bitched about for 2 years. Because David Grush, when he first came out, or when he came out in both of his congressional hearings, the one that he was in with Fravor and Graves, every time they would ask him a really juicy question, one of the ones that we all want to know the answer to, he would say, I could tell you in a secure setting. I can't tell you that information unless it's in a secure setting. And okay, now we get the secure setting and it's starting to ramp up, and now we have people no showing. It's like, oh man, and you're saying you're at a festival. I mean, if it's fine if you want to say Lou had a commitment at the festival and he's not going to back out of his commitment, but his number one commitment should be meeting with the people who need to be met with and getting this job done of disclosure and meeting with Congress. He's taken quite a few hits these last 2 or 3 weeks. Lou has. So
I mean, that's definitely disappointing to hear about all of them because, as you said, they're always saying they'd love to go in a secure setting,
yeah.
and then they get these opportunities, and that doesn't even make sense for all of the work Lou has allegedly put into disclosure to be backing out now. It makes you wonder what the hell is going on.
Yeah. And I think that's where everybody's so confused is like, what's most important here? Is it most important to get to your um, festivals, or is it most important to, meet
To
with people on
secure the
Capitol
future
Hill?
of humanity,
Yeah. I
because
mean,
he's been saying there's an imminent threat that we're not aware of, that not everyone's aware of, and it should be something that the best minds are on. But yeah, there's a festival. Let's worry about that rather than getting scientific minds to figure out what's visiting us if we don't actually know.
yeah, I don't know if Breakthrough in the comments, I don't know if he posted that rather uh, funny. He put disclosure with a dollar sign in the middle. That that may be what's going on here. I don't know, but you know, yeah, I think that could be something that could be tied into this. Look, I don't want to beat Lou up too
He's made
bad.
a
He's
lot
got
of
a
money, hasn't he? He sold a lot of on those. Wasn't it a number one bestseller imminent?
Yeah, and I mean the guy has to make money. Okay, if we want to beat the guy up for making some cash, all right. I'm not a Lou fanboy. I don't give a shit what Lou does. But when it comes to matters like this, it's like, man, that's just a hard ticket to sell that you had a festival to be at. I mean, that's some snazzy PR you got to put up with. But I just think that that's one thing that we kind of have to be mindful of. And then Chris Mellon and David Grush both missing as well. So all three of them missing the skiff. That was kind of a big deal this week. That had a lot of chatter. Yeah.
Yeah, David Grush has kind of been off the radar now for a while. So
Hmm.
who knows? Yeah, that puts a lot of stuff into question for sure. And is it because they're being threatened or something, or is it because they've changed their mind about disclosure, or are they
Could
lying?
be. Could be. And I don't know if they're trying to stay quiet with some of the stuff that's going to come out. Apparently, I mean, now look, unless Joe Rogan falls flat on his face with promoting this Age of Disclosure film, because apparently Joe was at the premiere for Age of Disclosure uh, documentary. And Joe's hyping this thing, man. I mean, that's the only thing I can say. So I don't know if they're trying to get out of the way of some of that, like clearing the space. Don't put a lot of noise out there. Don't have any fumbles, before we try to kick a winning field goal here and Lou keeps fumbling the shit out of the ball. It's like, yeah, I think they're just like, this is just my opinion because an update did come out on that this week. I'm looking through my feed right now, but they actually released some notes and said, hang in there, be patient on us. We're still trying to get the film released, and we'll keep you updated, as we hear information about this. It said we are diligently working on plans to release the film. So I guess they're still in like a back and forth to try to find a distributor. But Joe talks it up big time, man. If y'all go watch some of Joe's snippet, I know one of the people I watch on X is Good Morning UFO, and she put out a clip of Joe talking about, I think he was talking about it with Aaron Rodgers, of all people, because I think Aaron is one of the believers. But he was saying that the information that's in it, he said it's intense. Like that's what Joe keeps saying is it's intense. And for Joe to say that, who's been exposed to all this stuff we're talking about, I tend to believe him, but I think that could be something that's going on here. Maybe people are kind of laying low until that gets released because that's got a bunch of government people in it, right? It's got Rubio in it.
It's got 33 ex-military and political people, right? I believe.
Yeah, but I mean, well, and this Dr. Sebastian said Joe Rogan is legit and laughing. I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying he is really putting his neck out there.
Well, at
Is all
one
I'm
point he
saying.
was actually denying the existence of stuff. 'Cause I remember he was going kind of against Paul Hellyer at one point, like around the time I interviewed
Yeah.
Paul Hellyer. So, but now he's
Well,
kind of changed, and he's definitely behind the video, as you said.
yeah, and I don't agree with Joe on everything. I don't agree with Joe and Bob Lazar. He always says the stuff like, well, he's never changed his story in all these years. But then you go talk to someone who is a lie detecting body language expert, and they say, well, yeah, after a certain amount of time, you refine it and you get pretty damn good at it. So I don't trust Joe's analysis on everything. All I'm saying is he is the number one podcaster in the world. He's one of the biggest names out there, and he covers this and he knows everybody. He knows all the players. He knows all the shit that gets spewed, whether you believe it or not. And, and he's putting his neck out there and he's saying that now, if this documentary comes out and it's just garbage, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I don't know why Joe would risk his neck out there to say, oh, this is if it's one of those like we've seen from Greer, or it's another one of these like National Geographic releases that we see where it's Lou, Mellon, DeLong, Put Off, and they're all saying the same stuff. They're all just, and they show, I swear to God, if Age of Disclosure comes on and the start of the video starts with the Tic Tac UFO, I'm turning it off. I'm turning it because we have seen so many documentaries start with the Go Fast video for the Tic Tac UFO video, and I swear to God, I'll just turn it off. I don't even care what happens because I'm so tired of documentaries that start with that. Um, every special over the last 7 years have started with the Tic Tac UFO. So, but he's really putting his neck out there. So we'll see. But no, I'm not saying Joe's like some authority on it or anything.
No, I'm no 9/11 expert, but that's one thing, Edward, that the former Minister of National Defense here in Canada told me. He also believes it's an inside job. And Jesse Ventura, uh, who I don't know, my opinions on him are mixed. After he said he would never support anyone, and he definitely supported someone in the last election. That was one of the traditional parties, so he went against his word. But he also said it was an inside job. What do you think? You're American.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched all that, being adjacent to the UFO subject. Sometimes you get pulled in on other um, conspiracies as well. So, that's one I looked into. I looked into that. And then one that I constantly, people try to pull me in on, and I swear to God, I shake it loose every time I get close to it, is the MH. I don't even know what the hell the number is. Is it MH370? Um, I don't even know the name of the damn flight. But the MH370
Oh
stuff, I think
yeah,
that,
the flight that disappeared, and there's no evidence of where it went. That yeah,
yeah. And so I get pulled off into some of that stuff because it's again, it's you're right there next door. You're in the neighborhood of conspiracy, so you have to kind of get along with your neighbors, right? Um, look, I definitely think like with 9/11 stuff, not to go too far off the rails with that. I mean, there's definitely interesting things to that. I mean, you know, coincidences and things like that. But uh, I don't like how stuff. You have to tie it to what happened in the crash at the Pentagon as well, and for
you're
them to
right
try to,
about MH370. By the way, I just looked it up.
yeah,
Malaysia Airlines 370, the
but
flight that disappeared.
they try to say the Pentagon um, that didn't happen either, but there was thousands of eyewitnesses that saw the plane come in and hit the Pentagon. So then nobody wants to interview them when they're doing their conspiracy documentary. They don't want to interview the hundreds of people that's standing out there and they're like, oh hell, why is that plane coming in low and it hit the Pentagon? And they're all like, oh no, that was a Scud missile. Well, you just had 600 eyeballs or sets of eyeballs that said they saw, a plane flying very too low and then it struck. So what do we do with those people? So it's hard to tie all that together. That's what I don't understand, is, you know, it if what happened in the twin towers, if that was a conspiracy, but then the rest of it, how do we tie all that? So I don't know, but I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, to be honest with you, because I just don't pay attention enough to it. I did watch all the documentaries though, the loose change documentaries and everything. I thought they were well done. They gave some convincing information and all that, but I I just don't know enough about it, I guess.
Yeah, and the other thing this reminds me for everyone bringing up conspiracy theories for all these declassified JFK documents. There was pretty much nothing new that came out of that, which everyone was all excited about.
Yeah, I mean, this is just the nothing burger stuff that we get in Congress, and I think Luna is trying to look like she's being transparent, but then end of the day, she's just a congressperson that's probably going to be in and out just like the rest of them. Um, and she's just trying to elevate her profile as much as she can, right? Before she moves on to bigger and better things. I think they take positions on as committee chairs or co-committee chairs, and they do things like that. And then she gets put on this committee or to lead this transparency effort. Yeah, it's just nothing really has come from it, So I think that's why I'm saying the stuff with the government, that's why I don't want to beat Lou up too much. I mean, I do question him. I actually questioned him on X when he posted that about he was at a festival instead of going to the skiff. And my comment had the most views and the most likes, but he never responded to me. And all I did was I just said a one sentencer to him was legit question. You're telling us that a festival is more important than a skiff. That's because I just sometimes he does answer back. So I just wanted to hear what he said. I just wanted to hear if he would say, you know, yeah, and here's why. Or here's why in this particular situation I didn't go to a skiff. I went to a festival. He didn't say it, but to be honest with you, I just think it's a futile approach to go after this in Congress. And the reason I say that is if people play this out, and let's just say it's me and you, Hannibal, and we have, let's say we're brothers, right? And I go tell mom, Hannibal's got a knife in his room and he's been playing with it. She's going to come talk to you about it. Now, let's just say she's the, Congress in this situation, and Hannibal, you're going to be the government that's got all the secret tech, and I'm going to be the whistleblower that's blowing the whistle on you. But I'm telling mom, you got a knife in your room. She says, I want to come look in your room and look for this knife. She goes in there. She doesn't find a knife, right? To your point earlier, they moved the tech around. They know when people are getting ready to start knocking, they get a heads up and they move this stuff around. It's just been very well documented. So then she comes back and she tells the whistleblower, me, your brother, hey, I didn't find a knife. Oh, well, here's exactly. And now what I'm telling you is exactly what has played out. Okay, let's get back in a skiff and I'm going to tell you exact location of where I saw what I'm telling you what I saw. So I saw 3 crash saucers and they were at this base in hangar A, B, and C. And they tell them very specifically, mom, the knife was in Hannibal's second sock drawer in the very back. She goes back in there and they look again and they don't find nothing. This is what I'm saying. I don't really play much into this government part of it because I don't really know what they can get to the bottom of. What's Grush going to say? He's going to blow the whistle, or Lou, or any of them. They're going to blow the whistle on something they saw. And people have already researched that. If let's say that Grush did see something highly technical, or any whistleblower, they saw something highly advanced, and let's say it was an alien crash retrieval, they already know which hangar you saw that in or which part of the base you saw that in, and they've already moved it. So you're not, if you go in a skiff and say, they took me underground out here at Fort Bragg and I saw something, they already have noted that you were there, you saw it, and they're like, oh shit, we got to get that out of there in case, our oversight comes knocking. And this is why I say I don't know. Have people worked through the step by step of where this is? Why do you go into a skiff? Because you're divulging things. What do you hope to do with that skiff information? You hope to be able to turn around and knock on the proper doors, right? To ask questions from Congress since they're the gatekeepers of our budget, right? So they're going to turn around and ask questions, and all people are going to do is just continue to move this stuff around or stonewall them. So you see what I'm saying? Like even if Lou would have attended the skiff, what's he going to tell him? I mean, if he saw tech many many years ago, that tech's probably long gone from that location anyway. So um, I just don't think there's much gain to it. So to beat Lou up, okay, beat him up if you want to, but I mean, at the end of the day, I just don't think it's like, I don't think there's
Yeah,
much to it.
even David Grush, what was it, 2023? The summer of 2023, he testified that he knew where things were and he'd be willing to give that information in a skiff. Well, they already knew that he was going to testify when the News Nation thing came out a few months before that,
Hmm.
and now it's 2 years later. I don't think anything will be where he says it is at this point.
No.
He's been out of the loop too long.
Yeah. And when Jake Barber came out in January with Ross Coulthart, I, and if, again, I'm just assuming everything that they've said is true. Let's just play that out. As soon as Jake showed his face on television, if what he's saying is true, anything that he was part of a retrieval on is probably long gone. It's somewhere else, somewhere that we wouldn't even think to look because they saw him coming. They were like, oh shit, Jake is the guy that went and picked up that craft over here and took it to this base. And we kept it in that hangar all those years that he was running these operations. We got to get it out of there because what if they pull him in a skiff and he tells them, look, people are already 2 and 3 steps ahead of this stuff. So I just don't think people sit down and play it out. Play out the cause and effect of what we're doing here. You know, why do you go in a skiff? What do you do with the information from the skiff? How do you circle back on that whenever you go tell mom that you saw something in the sock drawer and she turns around and says she didn't find anything? What do you do then? You know, where do you go? What's your next move? Um, so that's why I, but I do think it is, you know, for at least once in history, you know, we have Congress. They do seem to be engaged at certain levels. Um, what I'm going to be wondering, Hannibal, is who do we have working behind the scenes that we didn't know about? I mean, did you know all those years that Harry Reid was working on getting money for OSAP and all that? I didn't.
Not until just before you died. They didn't start talking about it publicly until Bigelow started making public appearances about it, and George Knapp started revealing information about that. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I mean that's so see that's what I'm talking about is like who are the Harry Reids? Those are the ones I'm interested in because apparently Harry Reid was moving the dial, and he was doing it all covertly. You know, if people have watched Charlie Wilson's War, for example, of the intervention into Afghanistan, and helping the Afghans out, but doing it in a covert manner, um, you know, those are the situations I'm curious about. Is there a Chuck Schumer? Is there Mike Rounds? Is there somebody who's working behind the scenes? And we're using Burchett and Luna and Burleson all as these front people because they kind of keep us focused here. But then somewhere back over here, the real shit's going down, and it has nothing to do with those people. Um, so that's what I'm curious about is are there some Harry Reids working in the and I've heard that rumor that Chuck Schumer is the new Harry Reid because he wanted to honor his friend, and he wanted to kind of keep this ball rolling that Harry Reid started. So I don't know but that's where when I think of government helping out beneficially on this topic, that's the way I think of it. I do not think about it in skiffs. I do not think about it in like transparency departments and stuff like that. That's just no.
Very interesting. We heard that Japan. I mean, I don't know how legitimate it was, but we saw some reports like in the last few weeks that Japan was going to come out with some information, but it didn't look like that ended up being legit at all. Did you hear anything about that?
No, but you know, like one of the meetings I saw was Burleson. Is maybe he was in. I was trying to look here of who he was talking to in this meeting because they seemed like they were from an Asian country where he was doing some panel interviews. So maybe that's what you had heard because everyone he's talking to on this teleconference, um, they're all of now they're in very small tiles. So I'm not being racist. I just cannot see like their nationality. I can't tell which Asian country it is, if that makes sense. Don't beat me up over that. I just see very small tiles in the video, and he's talking to 4 different Asian gentlemen, but I don't know what country they represent. So that could have been something that you heard is him briefing or doing some type of panel interview there. Um, but yeah, no, I know that um, we had that going on, but we also had some of the information coming out that has been going on in the community again with Rick Doty. And for those that don't remember Rick Doty, he's one of the guys that had popped up on a Greer documentary many years ago, and he did some counter operation type work, disinformation type work, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm saying that outright. Um,
Yeah, he claims he has.
Yeah,
And
and
some people, like, I don't think that Jon Stewart guy that I interviewed a couple of times is credible in the end. He's a politician and seems to be more of a worker, but he gives that Richard Doty guy a lot of credibility.
yeah, and I mean, look, as far as I've been listening to Rick this week, he's popped in a lot of X spaces. I mean, he seems like a good guy as far as like his credentials and who he knows. But um, I will say that there's been some drama going back and forth in the community. I won't focus on that. I want to focus on the part where um, apparently through some of that drama through Rick Doty with some people who had said some stuff about him. It all was with that Paul Benowitz stuff. And Rick was saying that Paul Benowitz did not commit suicide and he did not drive Paul Benowitz to suicide. And and uh, the story I think is, and this I've not watched this story in a while, so I probably won't tell it correctly, but I think Paul just got into some information he probably shouldn't have, or overheard some things on a nearby base that he was trying to pick up radio things about, and uh, it it kind of went south, I guess you could say, and there was some help or disinformation, however you want to put it, whoever side of the fence you're on. I've heard it played out as like Rick Doty fed him disinformation, and then I've heard Rick say that no, we are actually trying to help him out and keep his nose clean. Um, but in all that, I think some back and forth was said wrong about Rick Doty, and he got mad. And some of the people that support Rick Doty came out against some of these people in the community that are have a big following on X and other places. So I won't get into who they are, but there's two or three people that are pretty big on X with UFO, and the claim has been out there now that these are people who are now on Greer's payroll. So that's why I don't even want to say any names because I'm not going at it from that angle. I don't even care about that part. I just think it's interesting that if that is the case, that if that turns out to be true, there's nothing illegal to that. Greer can hire whoever he wants to and to go run PR for him on social media sites. That's fine. But I just thought that was interesting to hear that someone is popping their head out and saying, hey, we have proof. It was multiple people actually saying that they have proof that some of these influencers on X are actually working for Greer. Because if that turns out to be true, it just throws in another um, angle to this of what is going on. You and I have talked many times about how does Greer get away with saying what he says? How does he go out and say that people like Lockheed and Raytheon have kill crews that will come out and kill you if you divulge information? Why don't they turn around and sue his ass off the minute he says that stuff for defamation? And they never do. So it makes us wonder, like, what the heck's going on there? Is he more powerful than we come to realize? So that's been some interesting developments this week in the space as well, because um, you know, every now and then Rick Doty pops up, and every time Rick Doty pops up, something controversial happens, whether he meant for it to happen or not. Some new information comes out. And I think he even said that uh, he had been offered a job to work at the Space Force with Lou Elizondo. I'm pretty sure I saw a video about that. So that was interesting information. I didn't know that Lou ever worked for Space Force, but now I'm starting to hear that. And I didn't think Space Force was that old. I'm trying to think of, was that Trump's first term? I think is when Space Force came out.
That's when they started talking. They claimed they created it during the first term. I remember that.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting when I heard that apparently uh, maybe Doty had mentioned something about that you know that Lou is at Space Force. Now again, at what capacity these people are doing what they're doing, I don't know. But that's just really good information. And why is that good information? Why do I pay attention to any of that drama that's going on? I don't really care about the players and people getting mad at each other and threatening each other with attorneys and legal and all this stuff. I mean, that'll blow over. That's all hogwash anyways. I think the big thing is just what is some of this factual information that comes forward? Does it rise to the top? Because these are people, again, they're going to Capitol Hill. They are standing in front of people that you elect, and you know,
Space Force was created supposedly December 20th, 2019 by President Trump. He signed the National Defense Authorization Act, fiscal year 2020. So that's the
so see that
official.
this would be the question to ask Lou, right? For anybody who has Lou on the next time, let's push them and let's have them ask Lou, did you work for the space? Did you work for Space Force? Um, and just get a clear answer. What did you do for him? Uh, what type of advisor were you? I've never heard that until I saw some video pop up where Rick Doty was talking about it. So, this is all interesting information if you are focusing on the who's who. And a lot of people, that's where we start to lose people. So I try not to spend too much time there, is because when you get to covering people more than the actual topic itself, as far as new evidence and things like that, you start to lose people because there's so much noise in the community. Oh my gosh. You and I have joked about it. If people only realized how much politics is in play in the UFO community, from all the tribalism, right? The Greer tribe and, the Lu tribe, and then X has its own tribe of people, that this influencer has his tribe, and this influencer, she has her own tribe. And next thing you know, it's just like you can't cover it all. So you have to just kind of go back to focus on the evidence, like what you were talking about in Arizona. That was an interesting thing that popped up this week, right? All these new information about Coltart shedding some light on what's going on out in Arizona.
Yeah, which supposedly is a possible interdimensional space that is another secret base that is being kept from the public of what it actually is in this area. And a lot of people in the area are seeing strange craft flying around, including apparently UFOs being guided by helicopters, American helicopters. Whether they're being
Yeah,
followed or guided or escorted, I guess I should say. That was pretty interesting.
yeah. The only part that yeah, I wish they'd have showed some of it. I guess that was my only disappointment, was he goes out and Ross goes out with this lady that's out there, and I cannot think of her name, but she's one of the guides in Sedona that takes people out, and she has this guarantee. If you come with her, you pay her for one of her excursions, you're going to see UAP. And that's how confident she is of the phenomenon. And so I'm like, oh man, they're going to go out and they're going to film some shit. And all they filmed was a helicopter. And they even said, they were like, oh, there's one of the military helicopters. And that's it. And they didn't show anything else. And I was like, oh man, that was that was a really big buildup of guaranteed UAPs. And they didn't show anything in that particular special where he's sitting down with her. So I was kind of bummed out a little bit.
Dr. Sebastian, supposedly the Black Knight satellite is 13,000 years old, has been orbiting Earth for 13,000 years. So I'm no expert on that, but I did do some commentary on it for an alien TV show. Do you know much about the Black Knight satellite?
Is that the
Allegations?
moon?
You don't? Yeah, no. It's supposedly it's a conspiracy theory claiming an alien spacecraft has been orbiting Earth for 13,000 years.
Oh,
Um, and some people are saying that the alleged photographs of it are just space debris, but some people are saying that there is photographs of the thing.
very interesting. No, I haven't. I'll have to look into that. Yeah, I mean, but I like that kind of stuff because I would rather talk about things like that, like actual substance, than to talk about the people all the time. Because one thing I do agree about with a lot of the people on X is whenever these people are fighting each other on X, if this guy gets mad at Rick Doty, or Rick Doty gets mad at this guy, or Lou gets his attorney on there to threaten some people, or I don't know, like it's all this infighting. And I wish there was more content to cover like that, as far as like actual expected evidence and not like all the people drama. Um,
That's the picture of it. That was actually taken by NASA, and again, I guess NASA is just saying it's space debris, and some people are claiming that this is actually an alien satellite.
yeah, that's awesome, man. I mean, that's honestly this week is like been I've been sitting and looking for like, is there anything content related going on in the field of UAP? And other than the laser stuff coming out, as far as like we're just now starting to scratch the surface on understanding what the government can do with lasers, as far as like creating plasma fields and all the other advanced things they can do. Uh, and then not only the Arizona story from Ross, but we have the sphere in Colombia that came down, and that's still kind of unknown as to like what that is. And my only thing, if I were to give any kind of doubts about this sphere and what it is, um, I was watching some of Jaime Maussan, uh, his report on it, probably from like a week ago, and he shows the initial retrieval of the sphere once it came down. I think it had hit some power lines and they were getting it out of this forest. When they walk down to go get the sphere, um, it looks pretty big. I mean, the sphere, the guy's walking down a hill, so the hill you imagine is like this, and the sphere's sitting like this. And he, when he puts his leg down beside it, it's coming up to his knee downhill. So that means that it's got to be pretty big if it's coming all the way up to his knee. It's big enough and the video is close enough, though I didn't see any markings on it. In the sphere, when you look at what they're presenting to us now, it's got ridges all the way around it. There's markings all the way around it. There's not a lot of bald areas on the sphere. That sphere, go watch the initial retrieval of it. It's bald. I mean, you can't find any markings on it. So that had me worried. That's one thing. I didn't see any markings. When the guy picks it up and walks out of the woods, he stays very shrouded with it. He will not expose like, hey, I got the ball. He's just kind of got it and he stays cloaked in the woods. He will not, and then the video ends. I have a problem with that. It's like, okay, you're filming something extraordinary. Just put yourself in their position. This thing has fell down. You're filming your buddy picking it up, and he's getting ready to walk out of the woods with it, and you just stop recording. It's like I really have issues with that. Well, I then see another video come out where Jaime Maussan and another guy standing there beside the sphere, and the sphere is only coming up to like, and Jaime Maussan and these other guys, this other guy that's with him, they're not tall guys, and it was only like coming up to like their shin, like mid shin level, and it looked very small with them standing next to it. Um, and so that's a concern I have. Like what they're showing in the initial retrieval video looks way bigger with no markings. And then the one they're showing us later looks much smaller, like almost basketball size, and it has no markings on it. Nothing, not, or I mean, the first video has no markings on it. This one has ridges around it, markings on it. So I don't know if that one's going to go much anywhere. I'm leaning right now to that one is like probably going to run dead. I don't, because that's just a, if it came down and you're filming the retrieval of it, why did you stop recording? B, why were there no markings on that sphere that you got? And why did it look much bigger? And and it was, I'm also finding out that it was retrieved in March. They got it in March, so they've been sitting on it for 2 or 3 months too. So, like, what's up with that? Like, so I don't know, but you see, I would rather cover these kind of things where I can talk about actual potential events that have happened in the community rather than the constantly attacking Lou every week we come on here, not attacking him, but covering some news where Lou has got himself back in hot water.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of us are pretty neutral. I'm even not even as much against Greer now as I was, but I still question some of his stuff. There's some more, by the way, the Black Knight satellite. You can see a little GIF here. There was, I guess, 6 pictures of it taken, and then we've seen some of these UAPs and volcanoes lately. Do you think pictures like this are legit? And could there be bases under Earth where they're going into these bases through volcanoes?
Yeah, I mean that's been released by Arrow too. Arrow has recently acknowledged a UAP within the last couple weeks, and for those that don't know, this is supposed to be the all domain resolution office or something like that. That's supposed to be accountable to DoD and Congress and supposed to give them readouts on what they're finding. And they seem to be a debunking factory, but all of a sudden they started releasing some stuff where it's actual phenomena. And, you know, so one of them, Hannibal, was one that they did show that was near a volcano. So, and now that one was probably a few months ago, the one that was near a volcano. And it shows them they're showing the volcano off to like the left, and then they start tracking this craft that's like hanging out near it.
Yeah, I have seen that one. I think I
Mm.
actually reviewed it,
Yeah,
and that was officially released.
yeah. So, you know, whether you like this topic or not, as far as like you feel like it's making any headway, again, we have government agencies. Your tax dollars are going toward people researching this, and and some things are found that they cannot explain. We have had the spokesperson at DoD. I'm wanting to say it was Kilby back in the day. I'm pretty sure, or was it Kirby? I'm probably saying his name wrong. For some reason, I'm thinking it's Kirby though. And then he moved on to be like White House press secretary for, um, I think, uh, Biden there for a while. But anyways, when he was one of the spokespeople for DoD, he even came out and they all admitted that sometimes during training exercises within the military, they're running into these UAP. And the UAP are causing them to have to stop what they're doing. Now they said this behind the podium. They're at Department of Defense or they're at the Pentagon. That they were having to stop training or halt training situations because of UAP. So again, we have quietly had some disclosure, meaning they would stand there at the podium at the Pentagon and say that UAP are shutting down trainings because it's not safe, or you're having Arrow come out and say, you know, this, and this. And oh, by the way, Kozlowski, that is running Arrow now, has said that he's hamstringed. He's like, I can't do anything. I can't. Well, I think the statement was he said I can't even comb my hair without approval. So um, I think what they're trying to say is we can only expose so much. That's how much control is on this thing. Um, when they go into a congressional hearing and people in Congress are advised to not say certain names by spooks that are out in the hallway, that shows you how much control is going on here. So this runs very deep for some reason, and you have to make up your mind on what you think the reason is. Do you think it's dark government technology? Again, Burleson mentioned that this week in a panel. He said that he has very good information that this is adversarial and or it's our dark tech that we're working on. So you have to make up your mind if it's that and they're just trying to keep it hush hush and we're stumbling it upon some things. But one thing to keep in mind, it's going to come out that we've got some kind of experimental stuff going on where we're testing on our own people, and that's going to cause some problems. I'm going to tell you that right now. If it comes out that they were testing the Tic Tac on David Fravor and his crew without telling them and reading them into the program because they wanted it to be a surprise, like they wanted to see the reaction of the crew, how would they interact with the Tic Tac? Um, there's going to be a lot of trouble because it's going to call into question every time. once a month or what, 2 or 3 times a quarter, we pull up the news and we see that an F-22 has crashed, or an F-33, F-35 has crashed, or Black Hawk went down, or an Apache went down, and it's going to call into question where were those people? What were they doing? Were they doing some kind of testing that they weren't read in on, and one of these black tech government deals malfunctioned and killed some pilots that were told to go engage it, and nobody read those pilots in and told them what they're looking at. You can't have it both ways. You can't say that, oh, well, Fravor and them are out there testing tech. Well, Fravor says no, they weren't, and he said they were asked to go look at something, and it ended up being the Tic Tac. So you can't have it both ways to where you say it's dark government tech, but at the same time they read these people in and they know what they're part of. No, they don't. So you'll never get me to believe that a Top Gun pilot would come out and just try to ruin his career um, over a program that he was read into and knew fully about. You know, oh well, I think Fravor did know about the Tic Tac, and he's just doing all this for some other purpose. That doesn't even make
I don't
sense. You
think he's
know,
that good of an actor, to be honest with
no,
you.
it just doesn't make sense. That you're not going to sell that to me. I believe him when he says he saw something that he cannot explain, and then people like Greer try to turn around and say, well, that was Lockheed Martin's, and I'm like, do you really think that we zip something around our pilots in close proximity that can go Mach 10 plus without reading them in? I mean, you could have killed them. I mean, oh yeah, yeah, we would do that, and we would just kill our pilots and just leave them out there in the Pacific, and we murder them all the time. I mean, think about what you're saying. I mean, it's like, okay, if you believe that, then we
Especially
have
good pilots that you
right,
invest money to train in, and you trust them with multi-million-dollar planes.
yeah. And I mean, it's just not the way of the world. People need to go make friends. Luckily, I go to school. Yeah, I'm in college. I go to school with people who are in the military. I go to a school that it's got a lot of military people in it. I feel like I'm the outsider sometimes. There's more military than regular civilians like me. That's just not what they do. If you are going to go fly this top secret helicopter into Abbottabad, Pakistan to go get Osama bin Laden, they're going to tell you about the damn helicopter. You're going to know all the secrets. They're going to read you in on it. You may have to probably sign something or be part of a. You can't. You have to stay quiet about this. It's top secret tech. We're going to give you a clearance to read you in on this program, but this is a top secret helicopter. Nobody else can know about it. They don't just keep like, and there's all these people that are adjacent to that that get read in on it because maybe they're part of the flight crew somehow. Maybe they're these all these aircraft have something called crew chiefs. One of my buddies, his son is a crew chief on an A-10 Warthog. They follow that plane everywhere it goes. I mean, wherever it would go across the world, that crew chief was going with that A-10 to follow it around because he knew it in and out and everything that got replaced on it. So, multiple, all these people, and they have nothing to do with flying it, but all these different people get read in to something like that. So, that's how the world works. They get read in on technology, they get to test it, play with it, interact with it, and be part of that, bringing it up to platform or squashing the program because it didn't wash out. So, saying that we are going to create something that can go Mach 10, Mach 15, Mach 20 at the blink, just like that, at the snap of a finger, and we're going to do that in close proximity to our Top Gun pilots, and we're not going to tell them about it. That's more inflammatory than just saying it was alien. So, but I think you have to just come to comfort with which story do you want to believe, which sounds more believable to you.
For sure. And as we close it off here, for the people that don't know about these UFO going into volcanoes, I mean, there's some pretty damn good pictures of people providing evidence out there, which we can look into more another time. But thank you for giving
Yeah,
us an update. I appreciate all the fan comments today too, and we'll do this again soon. Hopefully we'll have some more news to talk about.
yeah.
Always an interesting subject. I'll let you close this off. Thanks, Casey.
Yeah, and we'll try to keep an eye on the substance. Again, we try not to cover too much drama here. As far when we say drama, it's the infighting that goes on in the community. However, some interesting stuff comes out of it every now and then, like the slander of Greer maybe paying for influencers out on social media. I mean, it's interesting information to keep you apprised of, but at the same time, we're probably not going to try to spend tons of time on that. Probably try to keep you content out there. Maybe we can look into some of the stuff about the um, volcanoes and volcano UFOs, especially if Arrow is acknowledging any more UAPs. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on it.